Hey there, everybody. It's Modern Refugee. How is everybody here this evening? I am been wrapping up a few things around the house today. Just getting ready to head back to work next week. Hey there, Lady Luger. Back door, 1776. We'll be here 1776. How you guys all doing tonight? I did a little snooping around, find out some things on the local economy here. All of it isn't really that good. Hey, happy girl. Hey, Tom. Tom, my neighbor here from the Thumb. Yeah, I had a chance to talk to a few people in the last week and get out there and make a couple of phone calls and find out what the local job situation is. And actually, the job situation is kind of drying up around here, and that hasn't been like that since pre 2020. Mother refugees in here, making sure I stay on the state straight and narrow. Mother refugee has been in full grandma mode ever since our grandbaby was born. She has been going out of her way to do everything possible for the baby, as have I. But me doing everything for the baby is having the baby lay right here and taking naps with grandpa. Hey there, Karen. How you doing, sister? Bad bobber. Yeah, so I did a little snooping around, and the job situation around here is basically drying up. There's quite a few places that are in a hiring freeze, and that's really not that good heading into December. Usually, December is kind of a busy month, whether it's retail or whether it's still doing stuff for the farm, harvest, and that kind of stuff. And all those kind of jobs that are normally always sort of there. They're kind of everybody's shut down right now. Everybody's sort of in a hiring freeze from the people I've talked to. So that doesn't really forebode well for the next, I'd say, about 3 to 4 months because people start planning their projects and start planning to get things done and stuff in the plant season. That's always about February, and here we are. We're still in November. Hasn't even isn't even Thanksgiving yet, and we already got places shutting down, not doing any hiring over the winter. So this is going to go back to those. In the late 80s, early 1990s, it was hard finding work in the wintertime around here. You just didn't. And that's kind of when I graduated high school and stuff. So I had looking for a job about 1990. This time of year was actually pretty darn difficult. Happy garden economy is shuttering and government yeah, like I said, I could see where everybody's kind of hunkering down for kind of an economic downturn here. Hey, you tell Mr. Jack that I said hi as well. Mr. Jack and Karen are my good friends from down south. They lived in the UP for a long time. We have had a lot of good times together with those folks. But anyway, so yeah, the economy isn't really looking that good. Hey there, farmer. How's things on the west side of the state job wise? Because over here, it's kind of that's what I was talking about. From what I've talked to, the people I've talked to and the businesses that I interact with, everything's pretty well shutting down as far as hiring goes. Everything is, which usually doesn't happen this time of year, is what I was talking about. Hey there, Captain Jimmy. Thanksgiving, yeah, we're going to do Thanksgiving for Grandma. We're going to take stuff over to the facility for her, and I plan on doing a nice pork roast. I'm going to simmer it all night. Then I got, of course, potatoes from our garden here. I got squash from our garden, so that's going to be on the menu too. And then we'll do the green bean casserole, and everybody else in the family is going to bring something as well. So I'm going to have the meat and the sides, and everybody else is going to take care of the hors d'oeuvres and the desserts and that kind of stuff. And what we do is we pack everything up, keep it warm, keep it in the crock pots and stuff, and we take it over to the facility. They have a very big like dining room in there. We set up a little area for Grandma. We get her down there. We get all her medical appliances she's got to have down there. So all those years when Grandma made Thanksgiving dinner for us, now we're returning the favor and we're taking Thanksgiving dinner to her. Uh, Captain Bart, how you doing? Sunset. Sunset Heritage. How are you doing tonight, guys? Yep. Hey there, Monkey Food Garden. How you doing today? Yeah, so we are planning on doing that. I was able to get a pretty good deal on the pork loin roast. Pork is still pretty reasonable. Chicken's been reasonable. Beef has been going really expensive. Ground chuck has been right around $5 a pound, and that is about as high as I've ever seen it. I did see a couple places that were like 4.59 up in like Bay City and Midland, but I have not seen anything here locally that was much less than at least $5 a pound for some kind of beef. So gearing up for a short week. Me too. I actually picked a good week, I guess, to go back to work because I've got 3 days. I got 3 days on, and then I got Thanksgiving, the day after Thanksgiving off, which is awesome to have. But yeah, another thing that I wanted to mention, there's a lot of sales going on online for different prep or outdoor Second Amendment 2A type stuff. I actually did order a few things from Brownells because all their Magpul stuff is on sale, one variety or another. And then I think it was there was no shipping on any orders over $47. So that's the perfect time to grab a few extra P mags or if there's anything else that you need. And that's basically what I did. I tried to keep a little cash just on the side to try to hit some of those sales. Plus, there was a really good deal on a Black Friday deal on a knife, a really well-known knife manufacturer. They were running some sales, and I actually grabbed me one of their knives because I've long time I've wanted one of their larger knives. So I go ahead and I ordered that for myself as well because I've never seen that particular knife as cheap as what they had it advertised for. Again, there was no shipping. So if there's anything that you guys need out there, whether it's preps or shooting stuff or anything for your own personal resiliency, this is a good time to look and save a little money. And that's what I was doing. Yeah, Tyson is closing the Nebraska beef processing. I did hear that, and they say that that is also going to put kind of a curtail on the beef. I mean, we get our beef here locally, but still the prices are, dictated by the market. Hey there, Patrice. Good evening from Illinois. Mountain Survival. How you doing there from Utah? Utah, beautiful state. I got friends out in Utah. Beautiful, beautiful country. I maybe one day we'll move there when we want to retire and live there in the desert and stay warm in the wintertime. Turkey's available for 75 cents a pound, planning on canning the meat, Sunset Heritage. I got a couple of turkey breasts. They were, I want to say they were $1.50 a pound. I got the small turkey breasts because I want to smoke them. I want to have smoked turkeys here for the holidays. And that takes about a 5-day brine and an all-day smoke. And another thing, because there was stuff on sale and our freezers are maxed out here and our pantry is maxed out here. What I like to do is I like to go to my elderly neighbors because they always have freezer space, and I will say, hey, can I rent some of your freezer space? And then stuff like those frozen turkey breast stuff that's on sale right now between Thanksgiving and Christmas, I will actually grab some of extra meat, that kind of stuff, and I will fill their freezers as long as same as mine. And then, of course, if they need anything, I say, hey, I got whatever. I got 20 pounds of ground beef and I got it all divided up into 2-pound packages. And you guys need a package of that ground beef. You go ahead and you help yourself, grab a couple of those. So I'm actually paying rent to put stuff in the neighbors' freezers. Plus, because they're elderly, it does help them out as well. But I've done that for years now, whether it's freezing vegetables, but as a general rule, it's generally meat that I will put over there. And I tell them if there's anything you need out of my stuff, you just go ahead and help yourself. That's what neighbors are for. So that's kind of what we, plus, they don't have the income that they used to have. They're both quite up there in age. So then I, do what I can to get them some stuff. There are some certain, prepping items. Like one thing, they don't really care for white rice, but I do. But white rice, they don't really care for. But other than that, if I have anything here that I think they can use, I share that with them. Hello, Modern Refugee. Any chance to get a shout out for my struggling prepper book? It is called The Kingmaker and the Caliphate. Morgan Horde. Well, there you go. There's your shout out, Morgan. If you guys see the book, The Kingmaker and the Caliphate, go ahead and grab that and give them a little patronage there. Yeah, if you guys got anything like that, you want me to mention it here in the live stream, just put it there, and I'll try to grab the question. Modern mother refugee, she'll throw me a little heads up there, so I don't miss it. But yeah, if you guys got anything you need me to mention, just tell me, and I will definitely get that out there for you. Vintage cookbooks, World War II areas for meatless recipes. Yes, there are a lot of. They would give pamphlets out, and I don't know, do I have any around here? They would give pamphlets out during the Depression, World War II, how to use the ingredients that were available with the rationing and stuff. See if I can find one here. Everybody says I should give a tour of my man cave here. Here's something, perfect example. And then too, later, like in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, you would see these kind of things in the grocery stores from time to time. If they were selling something in particular that didn't really sell that good, and they were trying to get people to buy that stuff and try it, but stuff like this, let's eat outdoors. This is probably from the 50s from the look of it in here. But there would be little pamphlets like this that would tell you how to use the stuff that was being rationed, what to use for substitutes and stuff. And I have all kinds of these things here that give all sorts of basically really good advice on how to use the ingredients that you could get. I see everything on here except a print date. By the American Dairy Association of Chicago. This 28-page book is for recipes and ideas for outdoor eating. But I'm going to say this is from about 1950 from the look of the pamphlet. But I have all kinds of these, and like I said, every one of these is sort of a mini gold mine with good information. MR, not sure if I missed it. Did you all get a deer other than the one that I hit? No. I sat out opening day, morning and night, never seen a thing. And I sat out 2 other nights, and I didn't see anything except small game and skunks. The neighbor, his grandson shot a nice 8-point on the line fence, and that's pretty much the only thing that's taken place. I know there was some shooting across the road from where I was at on opening night. I think they did at least get one. That was pretty much the extent of what was going on in my area. So now I'm just going to wait till December hits. There's a muzzle loading season yet, so I'm going to go out and maybe sit for that. Maybe then things will calm down a little bit. There's too much hunting pressure around here for me anymore. I remember the good old days, where you didn't really have to sit out for hours and days on end to see a deer. You could see a deer almost every time that you went out hunting, but it's just not like that anymore. Hey, Dana Green. Yeah, don't worry about being late. We're still here. I am sitting on 200 pounds of potatoes that I have to clean. Everyone's opinion on dry canning potatoes with a pressure canner. I have never rebel canned in my life. Canning potatoes is one of those things because you got the peeling on them. To pressure can potatoes, to do it right, you really should peel them, hot water, blanch them, do a hot pack in the jars, and then pressure can them. Then they will keep a really long time, but it is a lot of work. The other thing that I have done lots of times, my mom did it too, is peel the potatoes, slice them thin, blanch them in hot water, dry them, and then put them in a dehydrator. And then you're going to get dehydrated potato chips that are sort of like the dehydrated potatoes that you get in like those boxes of Betty Crocker au gratin potatoes. you're going to get those dried potato discs like that, which are good for like au gratin potatoes. They're good to throw into like soups. You can reconstitute them by soaking them in hot water. You could do fried potatoes with them. You can do scallop potatoes with ham with those. And the thing with the scallop potatoes and stuff in the soup, you really don't have to do anything with them. You can just add them to the hot liquid and then bake it, and they will reconstitute as they're baking. But if you want them actual canned. The only way I've ever done it is with a pressure canner, and I know there's probably some people out there that would hot water bath them, but because the potato skins were in contact with the ground, there's always a risk of them having some type of contamination in there. So potatoes were one that were always pressure canned. Uh, what is the name of my white duck? That is actually a snow goose. I actually got him back about 2004, 2005 in Mound City, Missouri. We would go down there snow goose hunting, and there were so many snow geese, they would actually destroy the winter wheat crops when they would come up in February and March when the season was, and we would go down there for that kind of spring cull hunt, and we would shoot those guys. Uh, Craig Bond, I am also Sasquatch on here. I don't know why it shows my other hand. Oh, okay, that's cool. Good to know. Don't make a leap into rebel canning. You'll keep wanting to travel the line. Best way to do it, stay safe. Like I said, there's some stuff that I know the rebel canning way. I know how to do that stuff, but potatoes were one thing. Potatoes and meat, they were always pressure canned. They were always pressure canned. Hey, Michigan Silverback, how you doing? Mountain Survival. I know how to can, but my niece said she is dry canning and I don't do that. I actually do dry can. I've dry canned stuff, but for me, dry canning stuff is like dried beans, rice, pasta, dried hominy. I'll do dry canning, and how I do the dry canning is everybody's going to freak out now when I say this because of the mason jars, but I will put the product in the mason jar. I'll put the oven on 200 degrees. I will put them in there for a period of time. Then I will take them out. I will put my lids in the oven so they get hot. I will put the hot lid on the can. I will tighten that down. I will put that back in the oven, and then I shut the oven off and I let the temperature come down. And as those jars cool, they'll form a vacuum seal and they will seal. But I only do that for dried stuff. I do it for dried beans. I do it for like macaroni. I'll do it for rice. I'll do white rice. I'll do it with like dried hominy. That's the kind of stuff that I use. Not popcorn, but like field corn, dent corn that you would use to make like massarina. That's what I use that stuff for. That's kind of how I go about doing it. Blanch and double run through the water to cut the starch. If they are russets, Yukon Golds, yellows, little starch taters. Yep, pressure can. Yeah, that's and the blanching. You want to do the blanching too if you're dehydrating, because if you don't do any type of blanching, the potatoes will turn brown. They'll react with the air and they will turn brown, and you're not going to get a very good looking product. Anything, there's a lot of vegetables that you can dehydrate, like carrots is another one that you can dehydrate. You peel them, but again, you want to blanch them first before you go ahead and you dehydrate them. Like herbs, you don't have to do anything with herbs if you're dehydrating those in a dehydrator. And sometimes like peas, I will dehydrate actual store-bought peas, but they've already been blanched before they were frozen. So then that step is already taken out. So if you take peas right out of the frozen package, spread them on paper towel, you put paper towel over top of them to absorb the surface moisture that's on there as they thaw out, and then you spread them on your dehydrator trays, stack them up, turn them on, and then you dehydrate them. They will shrink right down. Heck, you can do, oh gosh, I'd say 15 bags of those peas that you get at the store for like 79 or 89 cents on sale will literally fit in one quart can when you're done. And then if you want some of those dried peas to add into like a fried rice, you're making chicken fried rice that night, you just take half a cup of those peas, soak them in a little warm water, drain the water off, and then throw them into your fried rice that you're doing. And that's basically how you put those up. And they keep a very long time like that. I have dehydrated a metric shit ton of green peas over the years, and I've never had any fail. And every one of them they always kept for me. Following the light, how you doing? Prepper for the ages, how you doing? Monkey Food Garden, I have been told you can only safely pressure can the peeling of canned potatoes within the first few days of having to remove the peel. Learned that from a person who can for longer I've been alive. That's interesting. So the only safely pressure can the peel of canned potatoes within the first few days. Yeah, we would peel them. It was always a thing. Grandma didn't really care for my mom's mom. She really didn't care for potatoes with the peelings on. Like now, you can go to restaurants and stuff and you'll get like red skinned potatoes with the skins on it mashed up or whatever. But my grandmother never cared for them. She would boil potatoes in jackets too. Like when we would have the new potatoes, they'd be this big around. She would boil them. And as soon as they were done, she would take them out and she would strip that peeling off of it, and then she would do them like that. She would cook them with the peeling on, but she would not eat them with the peeling on. So I never quite knew why she never did that, but she never did. Peeling the potatoes was always how Grandma went about doing that. Just picked up a 1950s German cookbook. That sounds awesome. Scout 826. Yeah, I would think anything from Germany in Europe after World War II, anything like that would be actually interesting because they were highly rationed. Germany didn't have nothing after they surrendered to the Allied powers. The population in Europe was almost to the brink of starvation because we destroyed everything. It was all destroyed. There was no machinery, there was no agriculture, there was nothing. It was all gone. And because I remember my grandmother, they came and they recruited in the rural communities. They went around and they recruited people that were of German descent to send like care packages over to German civilians after World War II. And Grandma did it for a while, and they didn't, and it got actually almost too stressful for Grandma because she just got bombarded with letters that would say, "Hey, we're starving. We don't have nothing." Of course, Grandma, she tried to do the as much as she could, but stuff like flour and sugar, they just didn't have any. It was just gone. And when they did get stuff, it was just literally figured out right to the calorie. But Grandma, they did send some of those care packages over there. Of course, they could read and write German, so then they would write letters in German over to these people in Germany there after the war. But it just got too much for Grandma. She couldn't do it anymore. She said it was just kind of too overwhelming. So then she ended up quitting doing it after a while. But sugar, flour, that kind of stuff is what they sent over there because they just didn't have any. The difference is the potatoes, not the shelf stable to begin with. GG's Garden. I've canned pretty much every type of potato over the years. There's some of them that just have more starch in them, like the russets. You got to take a little bit more time to blanch them and get that so you got kind of a clear liquid in there, because if you don't, you'll have like it'll look like milk inside the canned potato jars. Plus, that'll settle and you'll get sediment down there on the bottom. I think it just makes a better overall product if you blanch them, get that starch out of there first. My knee sucks and I have to go back to work this week, but I'm not going to figure out how. I'm not going to judge anything until I've had a chance to work on it a few days and see how that goes, Coney B. What they told me is when they did that knee surgery, they went in there, cut out the cartilage, scraped out the arthritis, and then they soaked everything in cortisone. And then that's when they patched me up and bandaged me up and sent me on my way. So about 3 days after the surgery, I started feeling better. The knee was working the way it should. I didn't have any problems going up and down the stairs. Well, then about a week or so after that, the pain just came back literally overnight. And I think it's because that cortisone they put in during the surgery had wore off. And of course, they don't give you cortisone shots every month like they used to. That's like 3 months in between. So I'm not going to get, that's going to be like this. I got one more appointment in December that I'm going to have to go to because they wanted to see once what things look like in December, like another follow up from that surgery. But then after that, how it is then, I imagine that's how it's going to be. And then the next step would be some type of partial or whole knee replacement. I don't know if I want to get into that yet. So that's pretty much how that's been going. I should say the first few days after digging, peel cannot be cured. Yes, yeah, and that's something. If you are putting potatoes up and you don't want to can them, that curing process to harden off those peels, that is something that you definitely want to do because that will help your potatoes keep a lot longer in cold in a cold room. Hey there, Mister Steve. How you doing today? Glad you could catch one of my lives. Steve, there, uh, he is one of my good friends, and he is a very good prepper in his own right. Uh, 3D Scout, I think Food Saver stopped making the canisters. Took me a while to find them on secondhand. Is that the ones that would vacuum seal the jars? Because I've seen those too. Oh, I'll be all right there, Monkey Food Garden. I've been dealing with my knees for a long time, so it's just like I said, I'm not going to know how I'm going to be able to handle work until I do work. Just kind of doing stuff around the house here. I'm not putting as many miles on my legs, so I just got to take her, one place at a time. December 3rd, I get a partial knee replacement. I wish you the absolute best of luck there, Mr. Bumblehill. I hope you get things squared away, especially before the first of the year. Captain Jimmy, that's really neat. I was able to visit Germany this summer for work. I really did enjoy it. Big culture shock because I have never left the country. That's cool. It's always cool to see how other, even over in Canada, the different times we've been over to Canada and stuff. There is a distinct cultural difference between. It's interesting to see how other folks live. Sometimes you can learn things too. G Garden was saying the difference in what you can oven can and what you can dry can potatoes is the things you named our shelf stables. Potatoes are less so over time. I've never had anything with my potatoes, my dehydrated potatoes. Any of my dehydrated stuff, I've never really had any luck or bad luck with it. Most everything lasts as long as it takes for us to use them, so they last. But like I said, the peas, the potatoes, onions, bell peppers, these are all things that I dehydrate, and I've had good luck. I haven't had anything really spoil on me. Of course, I keep it all in a cool, dark pantry closet too, so that probably makes a difference. I had a double knee replacement in 2014. Best thing I ever did. I know some old guys too that did it, and they said the same thing, but I don't know. I have my reservations on it, but maybe someday I'm going to have it done. I had 2 hip replacements, took a while, but now you never know. Yeah, and there's actually a person in our church. She's going to have a knee replacement coming up here in the next couple of days as well. So, but she's 20 years older than me. So that's the big thing that I was always told with my knees. They said you're just too young because they have a life expectancy too on those replacement knees, and you don't want to go in for a knee replacement when you're like in your late 70s. So they don't like giving them to people when they're too old. Dangerous Freedom. Canada is like a parallel universe. I'll tell you what, I have talked to some really decent people in Canada over the years, and different people that we used to know when we went over there fishing and stuff. But like I said, it all depends on where you go and who you're talking to. Going out to a smaller rural community in Canada or in Ontario, that's the same as the smaller. Michigan is basically southwestern Ontario, but going to small towns, I never had a problem blending in or talking with different folks up there. But when you start getting into the big cities, you get into Toronto, you get into Kitchener, you get into London and stuff, the Niagara Falls, St. Catharines. St. Catharines was probably the biggest culture shock for me when we were over there in Canada. It was very old European styling on everything, and they just had kind of a different way that they went about stuff. And I've heard that Quebec is like that too. Quebec has got a very distinct culture, but Quebec I've never been to. Mako spelling the robotic knee replacement. I don't know. They said that's all when they do those knee replacements. That's all robotic. The robot does it. That's what they told me there when I was in there. Anyway, uh, wife had have her knee replaced at 45. Had two scopes before that. Yeah, that's kind of what they told me. They told me that if that scope doesn't work that they did on me, they said there's the next step is a replacement of some kind. So bone on bone, 12 years ago. Yeah, mine, the inside of my knee joint is basically bone on bone, and then the other one, the other side's got a little bit in it yet, but it's wearing down and it's not going to get any better. One thing I've had a lot of people here. They talk to me about all the crap that I have here in my room, and I wanted to kind of show you guys a couple of things. I got some knives here that I don't recall really showing much in any videos, but these were all inexpensive knives, and I purchased these all prior to 2021, so I got these at pretty decent prices yet. But I think that these are some of the best knives for the prices that I got here. Back then anyway. This is the one here. This is an SRKC, and the SRKs, they are good. They are good all around knives too. But this C is just a little bit smaller. It's a little bit more, I'd say, utility or bushcraft size compared to like the regular SRK is about that much bigger. But I paid $38 for this, and I thought that was a pretty good deal because it's got a really decent sheath. And I think as far as a 30 to $40 knife, you're not going to get anything better than what this guy is right here. So I thought I'd show this. Like I said, I don't think I've really showed this much in any of the videos. And then this guy here is made by SOG, and this one is called an Ace, and it's got the same kind of plastic sheath on it, and it's a stainless steel, like a brushed stainless steel, but it's got this kind of scalloped handle on it. I kept this out in a cash bucket out in my woods for like probably 3 years, 4 years. I actually gutted a couple of deer with this. This has actually been a pretty decent knife too. And again, I think I paid $20 for this knife back in like 2021. It's kind of one of those another ones that surprised me when I bought it. Kind of bought it on a whim, and then it turned out to be a pretty decent knife. My uncle is a lawyer in London, Ontario. That's cool. My son-in-law did them. He ran the robot for the surgeon. Now he teaches it. That's cool to know. Michigan Silverback. Ran the old Western hunting knife for opening day of firearms. Oh yeah, I've got a couple of Westerns up here. I got them stashed off the side. They're more these guys here are more for collector value than they are anything else. This one here is a Western with the leather, but it's got a lot of wear on it. I always kept this one around in case I ever ran into kind of a leather sheath that would fit into that guy there. And then this one here I had given to me by somebody that I used to know when I sold guns, and he would come in there and we would talk about the old stuff and whatever. But that's what it's kind of the Air Force survival knife. And it actually says, you can't really see it on there, but there's a little stamping on there. And it actually says K-bar on that stamping. So I don't know why it's got K-bar on this, because this isn't a K-bar, but unless this was made by the same company or something, I don't know. But then it had this kind of beat up sheath with it here. And I just kind of rigged up a little tie there with some paracord to keep it in. But like I said, I had that one given to me. This one, like I said, is kind of more of a collector's item than it is anything else. Them leather handles are awesome. There's really some heritage in there with all that stuff. And this is another one. I only paid like about $35 for this too. This is a more bushcraft black, and this got a lot of really good publicity back in the day. It's kind of now the Garberg's kind of taken over all that, but it's the blade's very similar to a Garberg, except it isn't full tang. I think it's like a 3/4 tang down to here. But the thing with this is this has got such a nice handle for carving, and because it's got that Scandi grind on there, this carves wood really, really good. So if you want to notch wood or do any type of little woodworking projects, boy, this is really a good knife. And like I said, I did not pay very much for these at all. Like I said, I think I paid like 35 bucks for this one as well. But this handle and this handle here with this SRKC, you know, these rubberized handles on here, this is kind of what you want to have in the wintertime, because these handles they don't get cold. They kind of, I don't know, they just catch the heat from your hand. Your hands don't get cold using these. There are some knives that your hands will get cold using them. Plus, you know, if you're gutting a deer or something like that, you know, you want that kind of rubberized checkering on the handles. You want that grippiness because your hands are going to be bloody and stuff. But yeah, this Bushcraft Black here, that's another one of those like $30, $30 to $35 knives that I think you can't go wrong if you buy one of them. Then I got an Essie Azula here, and this, I originally purchased this guy, and it didn't have any handles on it. It was a hollow handle, and I did several different wraps with paracord on there, and I could never get that paracord exactly the way I wanted it. It was always not as full as I liked it. So I ended up finding some grip scales online. I think they were like $8. I didn't pay very much for them, but they had the hardware with them. So I put these grip scales on here, and this is actually a lot better now that I have these grip scales on here. And like I said, I bought this Azula. I think I paid about maybe 50 bucks for this guy here, because the SE knives is a little bit more of an expensive brand, but I did not pay very much for this Azula back in the day. In fact, it could even have been on sale. But the nice thing with this guy now is he goes in the sheath like this, but because this is so flat, if you're wearing pants, this is kind of nice as like a fixed blade for your pants pocket. I can slide this whole thing down in my pants pocket, and then if I want, you know, a fixed blade to do something where I got to pry a little bit something, it's always going to be better than a folding knife. So this guy is kind of a fixed blade pocket carry now that I carry this guy around. And then the last two things that I got here, two knives that show and tell, is the Buck Model 110. I know I mentioned this in a couple of videos too, but this is a Buck Model 110 folder. And this guy here has gutted a share of deer, and he's also been back to buck a couple of times because it got beat on, and I had to have the blade replaced on it. But these, before 2020, these were like $30, and now they're like 65. So these basically have doubled in price. But if you want just a knife strictly for field dressing, medium game like a deer, this has got a nice hollow grind on it, and it's good quality steel. This guy will last you probably your entire life if that's all you need to do is cut summer sausage or gut a deer up. So that's that guy, you know, right there. But like I said, these used to be 30 bucks. Now they're like 65, but you want the leather sheath too if you can get it. Well, then they made a synthetic version of that. And this guy right here is a 110 as well, but this is a 110 light. So it's got a nylon handle on it. It's got a nylon sheath, and weight wise, this guy right here is less than half the weight of the full size 110. And that's what these guys look like. It's basically the exact same blade, but then the nylon handle here, that's a lot lighter. And again, it's a lock back just like the other one, and I put a little tab on it to pull it out of the sheath. But this right here, you know, these used to be like $17, and now they're like 30. So it's one of those things too that I grabbed before the price went up on it. But again, this is a good knife to loan out to somebody if they want to gut a deer or whatever, or if they want to cut an animal up, or, you know, they need a general knife for a hike or something. I can borrow this out and not feel any problems if it gets lost or misplaced, because, you know, I don't have a lot of money into it. But really, like for backpacking and stuff, this is nice because it's light enough. But yeah, it's a little tour around the knives that I got hanging up back there. I got a lot more if anybody wants to see any of that stuff. So hey there, Hudson Valley's in here. Hey there, Hudson Valley. How you doing, buddy? Looks like a great skinning knife. Love my Ontario's. Yeah, Ontario knives. I've got a couple different Ontario knives. I know I've given Uncle Bumble a couple of my Ontarios that I had here that were redundant. I had an Ontario. I had a Rat 7 I gave to him, so he had a little bit bigger knife, and I really didn't need it because I got two SE6s. They're pretty much the exact same knife. K-Bar and Ontario are made in New York. Yeah, Ontario, that changed hands. That, like, closed up and sold off to somebody or whatnot. I don't remember the exact particulars on all that, but they did change hands. And I had another Ontario. Here's another Ontario knife, and that I got. I had a guy make me a Kydex sheath for it, but this is kind of like an Ontario version of a K bar. I don't have an actual USMC marked K bar. I figured if I ever found one, I would get it and add it to the collection. But the new prices on those K bars are really expensive. They're all well over $100. But I don't know if you can see it on there. It'll say it says Ontario, USA on that there. But yeah, it's got the leather stacked handle on it, and then it's got that rat tail tang's full, but it tapers down in, and then you got your kind of your round grip on it here. And I've actually took this out on a couple hikes and camping trips and stuff, and this actually batons wood pretty good. It's got that high saber grind on it, so you could bust up little pieces of wood, get your fire going and stuff here too. And then the guy that made the sheath for me, he was just practicing making sheaths, and he put a little bend in that so that stays out away from your like if you got heavy clothes on and stuff, it's not right up against you. So you want to resheath this because it's just a friction. That's just a friction deal on there too. So that's kind of what that is. But yeah, that's the closest I got to an actual like a USMC K-bar. I knew somebody once that their dad was in the Navy during World War II, and they had a K-bar with a gray sheath and a gray handle on it, and it was stamped USN, U.S. Navy. So I always thought that was probably the coolest K-bar I ever seen, but I could never get him to part with it. I asked him if he wanted to sell it a half a dozen times. So loan a knife to someone, yeah. I have loaned knives out, and usually they come back screwed up. Either they're duller than shit, or they beat on them. Like that 110. That's the guy that I loaned that out to. He beat on that, and that was the blade was loose then. But I had no problem with Buck. Buck fixed it for me. I told him it was sentimental. I didn't want that knife. I didn't want the knife destroyed or whatever. So they did fix it, put it on. All I had to pay for was the shipping out there. Zero Tolerance or Kershaw, they're the same companies. They're really, really good as far as warranty work. Ontario, I sent some stuff back in the day, and Ontario, they kind of gave me a little grief over it, but they still did fix the stuff. And then Buck, I've never had any problems sending anything back to Buck. I absolutely my Kershaw, Zero Tolerance, and Buck, those are number one companies as far as it comes to sending knives back for warranty work. Freeze dried ice cream, I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Like I said, I just tried to help people out there. You are honestly the best prepping channel. I appreciate. No AI and all real world experience. Yeah, I just share what I know. Like I said, in my experiences and the stuff growing up and whatever. There's so much of that stuff that people have just kind of lost that. They go to the internet for their information, but then there's no good information on the internet. But there's just so many things that we did when we were kids and stuff that people just need to know this stuff. It's a lot of it, people call it common sense and stuff, but it's just the way that we lived. And a lot of those things, if there would ever be an SHTF, there would be a war, there would be some type of rationing, there would be a long-term grid down, there would be some type of long-term economic problems, like what the Depression was, if there would be some type of inflationary event, because everybody's been saying as long as I can remember already that one day the dollar is going to, the debt's going to overtake the dollar, and that's going to be that. And then, all our stuff is made overseas, so nobody knows how. The only people know how to do now is just go out and buy a new one. Nobody knows how to repair anything, and it's just all them old time skills that I think people need to know. So that's the stuff that I like to talk about. Oh, Zeke Anderson. I was out grouse hunting last year and found $100 Kershaw blade shining on the forest floor. I got a couple. I don't know where I got them. I think there's a couple of folders. This one is one that I found beside a gut pile when I was about 14 years old. It was over on the neighbor's land, and I don't even know who was supposed to be in there hunting. My guess is they weren't supposed to be. And I found this knife laying beside the gut pile, but you can see how much that's been sharpened down. But yeah, I kept this. I even carried it for a little bit there when I was 14 years old. But it says Ranger on it, but I don't know what. It just says Ranger USA on it. So whoever made Ranger knives back in the day, that's what that one was from. But this is like a large stockman. They call this style of folding knife. They call them a stockman. Oh. Cutmaster was made in Utica, New York. No longer in business. That's interesting to know. Oh, I don't know if I'm just a guy, Hudson Valley. I could just see where there's problems out there that just people don't know how to take care of themselves anymore. And I don't know if it's just, I want to try to help people along, help them get through some of this stuff because I've seen just so much, and I'm lower middle class. I've always been lower middle class. So I guess I got a little bit different perspective on it than somebody, that had a silver spoon in their mouth. But we were so self-sufficient when I was a kid growing up, and there are a few people around here that are pretty self-sufficient. And we're a farming community, so that has a certain amount of self-sufficiency. But a lot of people have just forgotten that self-sufficient aspect of it. As far as putting up food, we put up so much food when I was a kid. That was just a full-time job. 6, 7 months of the year, from April through December, we were putting up food. Whether it was we were freezing stuff, mom was raising chickens and butcher them, whether I was hunting deer or fishing, whether we were growing potatoes or squash or strawberries. Mom had a huge strawberry patch. We would make just pint after pint of strawberry jam every year. Mom, she would get stuff from multiple different places. We didn't always grow everything, but she would have deals worked out to get a quarter of beef from the farmer, or she'd have a deal worked out where she'd go over to the one bakery at the one town that still had a bakery, and she would say, I want 20 loaves of bread to put in the freezer. And we would go over there. Of course, she would get a better price on that because she was getting 20 loaves of bread. Or we'd go to the day old bread outlets in Bay City or Saginaw, and mom would buy 20 loaves of bread there. There'd be, back then they were like 3 loaves of bread for $1 or whatever. So we would buy enough, and like half the freezer would be meat and the other half would be that bread. She would freeze it and use it for anything and everything. She would cut up that bread and toast it and have fried breadcrumbs. I tell you what, if you've never had fried noodles with fried breadcrumbs on top, oh, that was an old school recipe too, where people would do to stretch their meals and stuff. So bought my first 110 and still have her in 1975. Yep, they last forever once you got it. I'm glad I bought my K bar when I did. Dangerous Freedom. The prices are ridiculous now. Yeah, I remember seeing K bars at the local hardware store for like $40 when I was like 20 years old, and now that same knife is like 130. It's just they're really really expensive. I suppose if I could ever find one for 60 or $70, I'd probably buy one, but I found a pocket knife in my junk drawer that says USMC on it. I don't know if the military, if they ever issued like folding knives during World War II or Korea or anything like that. I've never heard anything like that, but I'm sure there was probably folding knives available like at the PX and stuff. So the soldiers and the Marines, they could buy those if they wanted to. Thanks, Karen. I appreciate it. K-Bar did a reproduction of an Air Force pilot survival knife. Maybe that is what I got there then. Get a little history on that. Oh yeah, the bread outlets. There's still one bread outlet. It's an Aunt Millie's bread outlet in Saginaw, Michigan. If anybody lives in mid-Michigan, they still have one there. It's kind of on a back street, where it is. It's off the main streets a little bit, but and we have gotten stuff there a little bit, but my mom, she would do that. She would freeze the bread up. Chickens would be cut in half. She would cut the chickens in half and freeze. So she would take a chicken out of the oven or out of the freezer. It would be a half, and then we would get like a quarter of beef. And mom was big on roasts and soup bones, so she would get a lot of like arm roast, shoulder roasts, chuck roasts, that kind of stuff. And again, sometimes we would get steaks and stuff like that, but mom would typically get like the front quarter of the beef, and she would get the roasts, the bones, and have everything else ground then because that was cheaper. She could always get that front quarter cheaper than the back quarter or the half where you got like 50-50 or whatever. She would request that sometimes, basically just to save money. And mom, she would make roast. We would have some type of roast at least one day a week. And whether it was pork or beef, but as a general rule, it was beef roasts that she would get. Amish dented can stores. Yes, that we got a couple of those around here too. And those, when we first started out, my wife and I first started out prepping, we were first married and stuff. We hit those places. We would go in there and we would get cereal for the kids. And if the canned stuff wasn't all banged up too bad, we would get that stuff to regular put up. The only thing we would stay away from is like tomatoes and stuff, but we would get that stuff. We have an Aunt Millie's outlet in Jackson, Candace. That's good to know. Hey there, Corsair. Good to see you, sir. MR, you should write a book, the Michigan version of the Foxfire. I've got my notes here. I got to get that done at some point. Like I said, I've already got probably a couple of 100 pages in notes where I've got written down to put together for a book. And I would actually like to get some few screen grabs off of my videos that I've done in the past on certain videos and stuff to illustrate the book with, because if I read the fine print in YouTube, right, I own the copyright on my videos, so I could definitely use those screen grabs as illustrations for my book because I own the images. So that's something that I definitely got to get done. Hudson Valley, I appreciate it. And you guys, if you get a chance, you go over to Hudson Valley's channel there, or Corsairs or Dangerous Freedom's channel, and patronize those guys because those guys put out good content too. Dangerous Freedom as well. Yep, there's some good folks out there. You gotta be a little bit picky with what you're watching, but I've come to there's once you know a few things and you know a few skills, you kind of been around the block a little bit. When you start watching videos on YouTube, you know who's being legit with you and who's just kind of making stuff up as they go along. And that's one of the good things about actually getting out, trying your gear, using trying your skills in real world environments. That helps out a lot. Dog bite. I live in upstate. Corsair, thank you. No, thank you, Corsair. I've learned quite a bit from watching you over the years too. One of these days we should, if I ever had money and time, I'd come to one of your shooting classes, Corsair. That seems like it'd be fun because I've never really had a professional shooting class other than the stuff that's mandated by the state of Michigan to carry concealed. Those are the only professional firearms classes that I've ever been in. Michigan Silverback's another one's got a really great channel. In 1989, I was issued a toolbox in the Marines. It had one of those silver colored camp looking knives in it with a bail on it, like a scout knife dated 1966. That's kind of cool to know. But yeah, that there with the jobs and stuff, I wanted to definitely mention that. And the beef price is going up. I wanted to mention that. Fuel has actually still been pretty reasonable around here. It was like in the 280s, and then it took a jump up to like 230 or 335, and now it's come back down again a little bit. It's right around that $3 price point again. That's, I think, pretty decent for the week of Thanksgiving, but I was kind of expecting a spike in gas prices, which kind of did happen. Those silver knives are available from Marbles. Yeah, Marbles, like two of those big knife. There's two custom knife manufacturers up there in the UP, Rapid River, and then Rapid River Knife Works, and then Bark River Knives. The guys that started those companies actually worked for Marbles, and then when Marbles sold out, um, they kind of left and they started their own knife companies, and now they kind of got their own reputations and stuff going on. But an original Marbles knife from back in the day, boy, those are very highly collectible knives. Boy, if you see anything like that at a garage sale, snap that up, because even if you don't want to keep it, you could probably sell that on the secondary market and make a lot of make a little money off of those sales. One of the hardest times I am having is learning how to use my fire rod. Is it hit and mix, but I will not give up. Okay, the thing with using a ferro rod, your fire rod, does it have a coating on it? A lot of them new will have a black coating on it. You've got to scrape that black coating off of it, first of all. Then you want to have your tinder good to go before you strike the back of your knife or your striker on your ferro rod. Um, the easiest stuff to start with, if you want to use natural material, is what they call fat wood, and fat wood is like the center out of pine branches off a dead pine tree. The sap settles down toward the trunk. That wood will get very orange in color, and then that's got like a resin in it from the sap, and that actually makes that flammable. And then what you want to do is you want to take that fat wood and you want to scrape that up and you want to make little shavings like that. These are just some fat wood shavings. And then these fat wood shavings is what you're going to put down on, um, put that in your tinder bundle. Then let me grab a ferro rod here. Knock everything down here. So here's your knife and ferro rod. Again, this is a buck knife. They don't make these anymore, but these were awesome knife back in the day. 632. So anyway, you want to take your ferro rod. That's your ferro rod right there. And you can kind of see there on the end, that's the coating to have on there. You want to get all that coating off of your ferro rod. So what you're going to do then is you're going to take your dried grass or your wood shavings or your birch bark or whatever. You're going to get a little bundle of that. You're going to form it into like a nest, make like a bird nest out of it. Then you're going to take a couple of good pinches of this shaved up fat wood. You want to put that down in your bundle. You're going to set your bundle down. Then you're going to take your knife. You're going to hold your knife stationary. And then you're going to take your rod and you're going to hold your knife stationary, but you're going to pull the rod back towards yourself. And then that way, the sparks are going to fall down into your bird nest. If you go like this, if you take the knife and go forward, you're going to hit your bird nest and knock your tinder everywhere. And then you're not going to be able to keep that fire going. So you're going to hold this over your bird nest. You're going to take your um, ferro rod and you're going to pull this 2 or 3 times till you get a nice spark down in that. Then when that catches, and you'll see it catch, you're going to want to taco that. You're going to want to fold that bundle up, blow a little air into it. When you start seeing some flames come out of it, then you want to take it and you want to turn it over on itself. And then that way your tinder bundle will catch, and then you can take it and you could put it in your little kindling TP or whatever setup that you have there. But that's the easiest way that I can explain there, Coney, on how to use one of these here just in a and I actually made my whole crew, kids, wife, campmates, whatever, I've made them start fires with these. So if you have a ferro rod, you got a good 90-degree spine on your knife, and you're camping with a bunch of people, make them start a fire with it. It's a good skill to know. And then that way they got that in their toolbox too. They might take 10 years, but one of the days that will come in handy to help somebody out. Cast iron cookware. Oh, I love my cast iron. The best cast iron is at secondhand stores and flea markets and estate sales and garage sales. That's where you get the good stuff, the old stuff. Yeah, I probably do have. I want to say I did a video, a couple of videos on it way back in the day, but there were other like camping videos and stuff where I shown how to do it. Maybe I'll have to do another video on it again, do a more up to date one, show you guys how to do that. Cast iron pans and sewing machines. Yeah, I got a couple sewing machines here too. I had the old treadle ones, but I gave them away, just didn't have enough space for them. Fat wood is what Hubs just got me. He's having, yeah, fat. If you got a couple pieces of fat wood, that's perfect to start with. And you can go to like you go to the stores, the big box stores or whatever that have that sell like the wood pellets for smokers and charcoal. Go into those sections. Sometimes they sell fat wood in bags, and you can just buy a bag. But if not, find a dead pine tree. Like if you got a dead pine tree out in the woods that fell over, and those branches grow at an angle. If that pine tree stood while it was still, or when it died and then blew over, that's the best. Right where that meets, where that branch meets the stump, cut that off, whittle that down, and the center of that, that's going to be orange like that. And when you see that orangish, the more orange it is, the more resin it's got in there, and the more volatile it is. Then you cut yourself 2 or 3 pieces out of it. You split away the outside portions of the wood, and now you got yourself a fat wood stick. So then you can scrape that with the back, like this bushcraft black here. This is a perfect one because this has got such a sharp spine on it. You take that piece of fat wood and you just scrape that, and then that's what makes the shavings that I showed you here in that tin. And then you just carry that little tin around with you, and you can use that then and to start your fires. And your little twigs, they should all be about the size of a pencil lead, or the end of a pen point. That right there, guys can see that there. See how small that is? That's the little sticks that you want to start where you put your tinder bundle into, about that size, and then you go larger from there. You don't want to have too large a wood. If you have too large a wood, it won't catch. Ben, my down pine limbs have plenty of fat wood. Just never thought about. Yeah, and like I said, if you find one down pine tree, you probably got a lifetime's worth of fat wood in that. All you got to do is process that, pull some of that out. Take care. Take care there, sir. You have a good night, Mr. Steve. Use that to hold the ferro rod. You have any videos on char cloth making, Hudson Valley prepping and survival? I don't know if Hudson Valley's got any, but I have a char cloth video way back in the depths of time somewhere. So there are videos out there, and it does, again, a pair of jeans, an old ripped pair of blue jeans makes the best char cloth. And if you cut them up in squares and you put it in a metal cookie tin, throw that in your fire, and you char that cloth there, you'll literally have 20 years worth of char cloth off of one pair of blue jeans. We all may have the ability to survive if we get this down, or at least pass it in our pack. Oh, I just tried it. Like I said, I'm just glad to have all you guys here and spending time with me here on my channel. I always learn something from you guys too. It's not just me out there telling people stuff. Any good content creator is going to be learning from his audience, his people that he interacts with as well. Vicinator, hi. Sorry I missed the bulk of the live stream, but I want to pop in and say hello. Good to see you there. Yeah, it's going to be closing her up here in a bit, but just give everybody a chance to answer the questions if I can. Denim is definitely the best. Cotton material is what you need to make it. Yeah, I don't know what it is. That denim, it's just the denim from the blue jeans. It's just a little bit heavier, I think. So the char cloth stays together. If you use real thin cloth to begin with, it gets really super fragile. But denim char cloth typically stands together. And then all you need is one spark. One spark lands on that char cloth, and you've got stuff going. But yeah, I'll have to do a fire making video once here just for the heck of it, show you guys kind of how to use some of those different tinders and stuff. Birch bark is another one. Birch bark is kind of just like the fat wood because there's a resin in the birch bark. Same thing, you can take a sheet of birch bark, you can scrape that with your knife, or you could peel off the dry pieces inside the bark, rough those things up so they got a lot of surface area. Then you can hit them with sparks, and that will usually start as well. I've started quite a few fires with birch bark as well, but there's a lot of different ways, like the horse hoof fungus that grows on dead birch. That'll actually hold a ember, so you could strike on that. It'll hold the ember, and then you can keep that ember in a container and take one, and use that to transport your fire to another place. That's a kind of one of the ways that they used to do that. Monkey Food. I'm still learning how to find MR's videos on here to post. It's hard on my iPhone. Yeah, any of these subjects that we talk about here in the lives, if you go to my main page there on YouTube and you hit the little search, the little magnifying glass search, and you just put in the topic, if I got any videos on that topic, it will come up. Plus, I try to group all my videos in the playlist. So, I've got a firearm related playlist. I got prepping ones. I got canning ones, jams and jellies, smoking meat, fire making, first aid, outdoor outdoor skills, old time lore. I try to have those all divided up into, and then after a video's out for a couple of weeks, I try to go back over, and then the videos that I put out, I try to categorize them in those playlists. So then that helps you guys narrow stuff down as well, gives you a little bit of a springboard of where you can find that stuff. Cotton is the best. Hate all the polyester. Yeah, you got to have 100% cotton to make char cloth for sure. You take care, Michigan Silverback. Good talking with you. Glad to have you here. Well, guys, we've been on here for an hour already. Here, I am going to jump off here. Let you guys go, but I just appreciate you guys always being here. I hope you guys always get information, some entertainment on my videos. Just enjoy these prep chats with you guys. And like I said, I can it's nice to do it down here in my man cave because I can interact with everybody. And like I said, I can pull things out here, let you know that I'm legit, that I actually have this stuff here. But anyway, this is Modern Refugee. I appreciate all my subscribers out there. Hope you guys always get some information, some entertainment out of my videos. You guys have a good Thanksgiving week. You guys stay safe. It's still a holiday week. You know, people like to take advantage of those holidays and stuff to cause problems too sometimes. So always keep that in the back of your mind and keep your preps in the back of your mind as well. But anyway, appreciate you guys out there. You guys have a good one.